Hallo, ich heiße Kathryn Huether und bin Graduate-Studentin in Musikwissenschaft. Meine Forschung behandelt sich den Einfluss der Musik und des Klanges, die in Holocaust-Denkmalen zu hören sind. Diesen Sommer bin ich nach Berlin gereist, das Thema weiter zu forschen. Hello, my name is Kathryn Huether and I'm a graduate student in musicology at the University of Minnesota School of Music. My project, which was conducted predominantly in Berlin, Germany, is titled A Sensorium of Remembering, Witnessing via Sonic Affect in Berlin's Holocaust Museum exhibitions and memorials. It examines the usage and resulted affect of sound and music, or rather sonic mediums, in Holocaust exhibitions, understanding these mediums as playing a key affective role in the cultivation of memory by way of these presentations. A sonic medium's capability to evoke distinctive emotive responses in its listeners makes it a prime subject of interest, as it can serve as an active agent in the shaping of how Holocaust memory is understood. I think it's easier to understand the nature of my project when I describe the precursor of this. The focus of museum exhibitions and memorials emerged from prior research that was conducted for the thesis of my master's in religious studies, which examined the role of music in Holocaust filmography, specifically Holocaust film documentaries. I argued that the musical score played a part in how we received the film, in turn prominently shaping how we understood the Holocaust. For instance, think of a film without its soundtrack. You can't. In turn, think of how that soundtrack influences your reaction to the film as a whole or a particular scene. Although you might not realize it in the moment, the soundtrack drastically shapes your emotive response to the content. Did you cry in that film? Did you laugh? Were you just very uncannily angry? It's likely, more than likely actually, that the soundtrack had a stark influence on how you reacted to whatever the content was. My project in Berlin examines the sonic mediums from a similar perspective, and their roles in cultivating tertiary Holocaust witnesses, arguing that sonic mediums employed play a central role in how contemporary audiences engage and relate to the Holocaust memory. So specifically, what I'm looking at is how the museum exhibitions and memorials employ music in whatever you're seeing at that moment. Is there music when you're reading this article on the wall? Is there music when you're walking through this aisle of artwork? What about these photos that you're looking at? Is there sound? Is there any kind of sonic medium that is being employed that also influences how you're receiving this memory? Tertiary witnessing is easy to understand also. It's really any state of witnessing that occurs in a museum or at a memorial, as these are accounts of the past trauma, not the trauma itself. In the attempts to create a semblance of the trauma, affective agents are employed, such as sound, music, visuals, etc. This employment of aesthetics is what I term the sensorium, from which I highlight the sonic elements. So in a sense, tertiary witnessing is cultivating a performative aspect to whatever material is being presented to us. For example, when I was in Berlin, one of the most intriguing exhibits that I was able to look at and examine was the Schalchet, or Fallen Leaves exhibit in the Berlin Jewish Museum. And this was designed by architect and artist Daniel Liebenskind. And in this, it's a room at the end of the fourth floor. And it has this huge aisle, and there's a wall at the end, so it's not a room that you need to walk across to get to another point. But you're invited to walk on it and really engage in this performative experience of trauma. And it's particularly traumatic because the exhibit is, the feature of this is a pile of metal faces upon metal faces. And these metal faces are supposed to stand in for the Holocaust victims. And so each one of these faces represents an individual life that was taken. And as you walk on to this platform, of course, they're all individual, and you can imagine metal clashing upon metal, and this echo just reverberates through the entire room. So not only are you hearing this sonic influence, it's kind of resembling a scream, but also you feel this sensorium in your very being as it reverberates through you as you're walking. In turn, those individuals that are in the room and that are walking on this exhibit aren't the only ones with this experience. Those screams that result from the clash upon clash in metal is heard throughout the entire fourth floor. So even if you are in the next room over, you're still getting this experience, and it's still influencing whatever you are seeing at that moment. I think my favorite part of my trip this summer to Berlin was to go to the Akademie der Künste archive. So this project took on two approaches to accomplish this. I did ethnographic work, which is going to the exhibits and examining them myself and talking to museum visitors, but also I went to the archive at Akademie der Künste and got to engage with sources done by Bertolt Brecht and Hans Eisler, two theorists that really engaged in performance artwork. And it was so cool because you're holding this work that these theorists wrote and penned themselves, and you're touching their words and their paper. And also just my German got so much better from doing that, and to be in the archive and engaging with German. And that's partly why I opened this video in German, is because that experience to engage with the community there in their own language, I think really just added another level to my project that I wouldn't have been able to do if I hadn't been fluent. So that was my trip to Berlin.